This video is intended to give the non-woodworker an idea of what's involved in making a segmented vase. The one you see pictured here is a project I recently completed. I will use this vase to illustrate the steps I take in making a segmented lathe project. Segmented turning involves taking strips of wood and cutting them into polygons with very precise angles and exact lengths. These polygons are glued together to form rings. Then the rings are glued together to form the shape of the intended vase. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The first step is to plan the project. This involves deciding what is to be made, the desired shape of the piece, the size of the piece, and the materials to be used. Once I've decided these issues, it's time to draw the plans. Now, there are computer programs to do this task, but I prefer to draw the design by hand and in full scale. As the design develops, I also calculate the size of the individual segments and the size of the rings. You can see the results of these calculations to the left of the drawing. For this project, I used maple and mahogany. The maple wood pictured here was a slab of a tree I cut up many years ago. I cut it into manageable pieces before going inside the shop. But I still had lots of cutting to do before the segments could be made. The wood is cut into strips, the width of which is what's needed for the segments. Once the strips are cut, they are then planed to the final thickness needed. I need to mill some of the wood into thin veneer strips that will be used as accent pieces. These will be placed between the segments and between the layers. I first cut the wood on my bandsaw. I then use my thickness sander to reduce them to 1/16 of an inch thick. This also leaves a smooth surface to make sure a proper fit. Let's get cutting some segments. The strip is held on a sliding jig to control the angle of the cut. The stop block indicated with the arrow allows me to cut the pieces to the correct lengths. Once the segments are cut, each one must be sanded to ensure precise fit. This is all done by hand. The segments are test fitted before glue is applied. A band clamp helps pull the segments together so that I can make sure of the fit. The segments are then glued together along with the accent veneer. I like to apply the glue with my finger. I find this a lot easier than using a brush. You may notice that I slide the surfaces together as I join them. This helps starts the glue to tack and holds the pieces until I can clamp them. Once the glue has been applied, the band clamp is again placed around the ring where it will remain for several hours as the glue sets. These processes are completed for all 22 rings that will comprise the vase. Next, I run each ring through my thickness sander to get one side smooth and even. I will smooth the other side after the ring is glued to the vase on the lathe. It's now time to start putting the rings together to form the vase. The first ring is glued to a block that will hold the vase to the lathe, but will eventually be cut off. After the glue is set, it's time to add the veneer and the second ring. You'll notice I'm using wax paper. This prevents the veneer from sticking to the plywood that I use to apply pressure as the glue sets. The larger rings also get accent veneer, but it's applied off the lathe. The veneer is prepared by hand and glued to the ring. The veneer pieces are held together with tape until the veneer is ready to be glued to the ring. The tape is removed once the glue has set. I use whatever is handy to apply pressure while the glue dries. Here you see the vase starting to take shape. Due to the size of the vase, it would be difficult to complete the glue up prior to beginning the shaping. I glue up 2 or 3 rings at a time and shape them before moving on. This allows me to sand and apply finish to the inside as I proceed. As I go along, I measure frequently to make sure that I'm matching the drawing that I started with. I use calipers to measure both the diameter and the wall thickness. With this vase, I started gluing rings from the bottom, but also started from the top. What I mean by this is that I made actually 2 pieces that would be later joined. This allows me to shape the interior of the top that would not be possible otherwise. Rings 1 through 15 will make up the bottom, while rings 16 through 20 will make up the top. Rings 21 and 22 will be added later. What you're seeing here is the interior of the top portion. Here I am doing some final shaping on the lower part while I can, before bringing the 2 parts together. It's now time to join the 2 parts. With the 2 major parts glued together, it's time to shape the outside to its final form. Then it's time to remove the waste block from the top of the vase so that I can add the last 2 layers. Layers 21 and 22 are added and can now be shaped to complete the vase. Here I make some final touches to the inside of the mouth before the finish can be applied. At this point, much of the shavings I've made have been trapped inside the vase. A little compressed air helps remedy this. I used a mixture of polyurethane, linseed oil, and mineral spirits for a finish. I applied 8 coats of finish both to the inside and the outside. Now it's time to remove the waste block that holds the vase to the lathe. Lastly, a date and a signature complete the project. Thanks for watching.